Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
For a whole week, everyone in the old house was really good. It was surprising. They all felt very happy and were being very good. They had been worried about their father, but now they were not so worried. The girls were not working as hard as before, but they were still trying to be good. They thought they deserved a break because they had worked so hard. Jo got a bad cold because she didn't cover her head enough. Aunt March didn't like people reading with colds. Jo stayed home to get better. She liked this because she could rest and read books. Amy realized that doing housework and art didn't work well together, so she went back to making mud pies. Meg went to teach her students every day. She also sewed at home, but she spent a lot of time writing letters to her mother or reading the news from Washington. Beth kept doing what she was supposed to do, although sometimes she felt sad and didn't do much. Every day, they did their chores, but sometimes they forgot. The house felt empty without their mother. When Beth felt sad about their mother or worried about their father, she went to a closet, hugged an old gown, and prayed quietly. Nobody knew what made her feel better after being sad, but everyone saw how nice Beth was. They started going to her for help or advice. They didn't know it, but this was a test of their character. After the excitement was over, they thought they did well and deserved praise. They did, but they made a mistake by stopping. They learned this through worry and regret. Beth, Mom told us not to forget the Hummels. Can you go see them? Beth asked Meg 10 days after Mom left. I'm too tired to go today, Meg replied, sewing comfortably. Why don't you go, Jo? Beth asked. It's too stormy for me with my cold, Jo said, feeling a little ashamed. I thought your cold was almost gone, Meg said. It's okay for me to go out with Lori, but not okay to visit the Hummels, Jo said, laughing. Why don't you go yourself?
Meg suggested.
I've been going every day, but the baby is sick. Mrs. Hummel goes to work and Lachun takes care of it. But it's getting worse, and I think you or Hannah should go, Beth explained. Meg promised she would go the next day. Ask Hannah for some food, Beth, and take it to the Hummels. It'll be good for you to get some fresh air, Jo said, apologizing. I'd go, but I want to finish my writing. I have a headache and I'm tired, so I thought maybe someone else could go, Beth said. Amy will be here soon, and she can go, Meg suggested. So Beth lay down on the sofa. The others went back to their work, and they forgot about the Hummels. An hour passed. Amy didn't come. Meg went to her room to try on a new dress. Jo was busy with her story, and Hannah fell asleep by the fire in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Beth quietly put on her coat, filled a basket with things for the poor children, and went out into the cold air with a heavy head and sad eyes. When she returned late, no one noticed her come in and go upstairs to her mother's room. Half an hour later, Jo went to the closet for something and found Beth sitting on the medicine chest, looking very serious, with red eyes and a bottle of medicine in her hand. Oh dear, what's wrong? exclaimed Joe, as Beth gestured for her to stop and asked quickly, "You've had scarlet fever before, haven't you?" "Yes, years ago, when Meg did." "Why?" "Then I'll tell you." "Oh, Joe, the baby's died." "What baby?" "Mrs. Hummel's. It died in my lap before she got home." Beth cried with a sob. "Oh, my poor dear, how awful for you." "I should have gone," Joe said, taking her sister in her arms as they sat down in their mother's big chair, looking sorry. "It wasn't awful, Joe, just very sad. I knew it was sicker right away, but Lachin said her mother had gone to get a doctor, so I held the baby and let Lottie rest. It seemed asleep, but then it gave a little cry and trembled, and then went very still. I tried to warm its feet, and Lottie gave it some milk, but it didn't move, and I knew it was dead." "Don't cry, dear. What happened next?" "I just sat and held it gently until Mrs. Hummel came back with the doctor. He said it was dead, and then looked at Heinrich and Minna, who have sore throats."
Scarlet fever, Mom.
"You should have called me earlier," he said grumpily. Mrs. Hummel told him she was poor and had tried to cure the baby herself, but now it was too late, and she could only ask him to help the others and hope for charity to pay him. He smiled then and was kinder, but it was very sad, and I cried with them until he suddenly turned around and told me to go home and take belladonna right away, or I'd catch the fever. "No, you won't," Joe exclaimed, hugging her tightly, looking scared. "Oh, Beth, if you get sick, I'll never forgive myself. What should we do?" "Don't worry, I don't think I'll get it badly. I checked Mother's book and saw that it starts with a headache, sore throat, and strange feelings like mine. So I took some belladonna and I feel better," Beth said, putting her cold hands on her warm forehead and trying to seem okay. "If only Mom was home," Joe exclaimed, grabbing the book and feeling like Washington was very far away. She read a page, looked at Beth, felt her head, looked into her throat, and then said seriously, "You've been with the baby every day for more than a week, and among others who are getting it, so I'm afraid you might get it too, Beth. I'll call Hannah. She knows all about sickness. Please don't let Amy come. She's never had it, and I'd hate to give it to her." "Can't you and Meg get it again?" Beth asked, worriedly. "I don't think so, but I don't mind if I do. It's my fault for being selfish and letting you go while I stayed writing nonsense," Joe muttered as she went to talk to Hannah. Hannah was awake in a minute and took charge right away, assuring them that everyone gets scarlet fever, and if treated right, nobody dies. Joe believed her and felt much better as they went to get Meg. "Here's what we'll do," Hannah said after examining and asking Beth some questions. "We'll have Dr. Bangs just check you, dear, to make sure everything's okay. Then we'll send Amy to Aunt March's for a while to keep her safe, and one of you girls can stay home and entertain Beth for a day or two." "I'll stay, of course. I'm the oldest," Meg said, looking worried and guilty. "I'll stay because it's my fault she's sick. I told Mom I'd do the errands, but I didn't." Joe said firmly. Which one do you want, Beth? We only need one, Hannah said. Joe, please. Beth leaned her head against her sister with a happy look, settling the matter. I'll go tell Amy, Meg said, feeling a bit hurt, but also relieved because she didn't like nursing and Joe did. Amy rebelled and said she'd rather have the fever than go to Aunt March's. Meg tried to reason, plead, and command, but nothing worked. Amy insisted she wouldn't go, leaving Meg in despair. She went to ask Hannah what to do. Before she returned, Lori came into the parlor and found Amy crying into the sofa cushions. Amy told him her story, hoping for comfort, but Lori just put his hands in his pockets and walked around, whistling softly as he thought. Then he sat beside her and said persuasively, "Be sensible and do as they say. Don't cry. Listen to my plan. You go to Aunt March's, and I'll take you out every day, driving or walking, and we'll have fun. Won't that be better than being sad here?" "I don't want to go away like I'm not wanted," Amy said, sounding hurt. "Don't worry, dear. It's to keep you healthy. You don't want to get sick, right?" replied Lori. "No, I definitely don't. But I might get sick because I've been with Beth all the time. That's exactly why you should leave now, so you don't catch it. A change of place and some care will help you stay well, or if you do get it, it might not be as bad. It's better to go soon because scarlet fever is serious. But it's boring at Aunt March's, and she's so grumpy," Amy said, looking a bit scared. "It won't be boring with me visiting every day to tell you about Beth and take you out for fun. Aunt March likes me, and I'll be really nice to her so she won't be mean to us," Lori assured her. "Will you take me for rides in the trotting wagon with Puck?" "I promise." "And will you come every day?" "You bet." "And bring me back as soon as Beth is better?" "As soon as possible." "And go to the theater, really?" "As many times as you want." "Well, okay, I guess," Amy said slowly. "Great. Go tell Meg you agree," Lori said, giving her a pat on the back, which annoyed Amy more than agreeing did. Meg and Joe came running down to see the big decision Amy made, feeling proud of her selfless act. Amy promised to go if the doctor said Beth was going to be sick. "How is Beth?" Lori asked, feeling more worried about her than he showed. "She's resting on Mom's bed and feels better. The baby's death upset her, but I think she just caught a cold. Hannah thinks so too, but seeing Beth worried makes me nervous," Meg replied. "This world is tough," Joe said, messing up her hair in frustration. "Just when we solve one problem, another comes up. It feels like there's nothing to hold onto now that Mom's not here. I feel lost." "Don't get all prickly, Joe. It doesn't suit you. Fix your hair and tell me if I should send a message to your mom or do anything else," Lori asked, still not happy about Joe losing her beautiful hair. "That's what bothers me," said Meg. "I feel we should tell her if Beth is truly sick, but Hannah says we shouldn't. Mom can't leave Dad, and it'll just worry them. Beth won't be sick for long. Hannah knows what to do, and Mom said we should listen to her. So I guess we have to, but it doesn't feel quite right to me. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe we should ask Grandpa after the doctor comes, Meg suggested. We will. Joe, go get Dr. Bangs right away, commanded Meg. We can't decide anything until he checks on Beth. Stay put, Joe. I'll be the messenger today, said Laurie, grabbing his cap. I hope you're not too busy, Meg said. Nope, finished my lessons for today, Laurie replied. Do you study during vacations? Asked Joe. I just follow the good examples I see around me, Laurie answered, swinging out of the room. I have high hopes for him, Joe said, watching him jump over the fence with a proud smile. He's doing well, considering, Meg said, not too interested in the topic. Dr. Bangs arrived and said Beth had signs of the fever, but he thought she'd have a mild case. He looked serious about the Hummel story. Amy was sent away immediately, and after getting something to keep her safe, she left in style, with Joe and Laurie escorting her. Aunt March greeted them in her usual way. What do you want now? She asked, peering over her glasses. The parrot on her chair back chimed in, saying, Go away. No boys allowed here. Laurie moved to the window, and Joe began her story. Not surprised if you go poking about among poor folks. Amy can stay and help if she isn't sick, which she probably will be. Looks like it already. Don't cry, child. It bothers me to hear people sniff, Aunt March said. Amy was about to cry, but Laurie pulled the parrot's tail, making Polly squawk in a funny way that made her laugh instead. What news from your mother? The old lady asked gruffly. Father is much better, Joe replied, trying to keep a serious face. Oh, is he? Well, that won't last long, I bet. March never had much stamina, Aunt March said cheerfully. Ah. Never say die. Take a pinch of snuff. Goodbye. Goodbye. Polly squawked, dancing on its perch and trying to grab the old lady's hat as Laurie teased him. Quiet, you rude bird. And Joe, you should leave at once. It's not proper to be out so late with a silly boy like. Quiet, you rude bird. Polly interrupted, tumbling off the chair and trying to peck Laurie, who was laughing at Aunt March's words. I don't know if I can stand it, but I'll try, Amy thought to herself as she was left alone with Aunt March. Shoo, you dreadful thing, Polly screeched, and Amy couldn't help but sniff at the bird's rudeness.